Okay, so I was looking at your University of Arizona bio and I saw that you come from a long line of divers.
I
Has it
do.
always been diving? I mean, did your parents and your aunt and your grandfather did they immediately push you into diving? Was there really any other option?
No, actually, I did literally every single sport basically, until I was in gymnastics and they asked me into kind of the elite level. And my parents were like, all right, like this is a lot of hours. Are you sure you want to do this? There's other sports. And I was doing soccer at the time. And they're like, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's diving. And I was like, okay, I'll do diving. And then I quit the next day of gymnastics. And I was like, and I started diving and that was it, kind of. So, yeah.
I don't talk to a ton of divers on this podcast, but I would imagine that the link from gymnastics to diving is a pretty strong pipeline. Would you agree?
For sure. I had a teammate on my Arizona team who was a gymnast for a very long time, and she ended up being an Olympian. So, I mean, it ended up working out for her. So, yeah.
What was it about diving that made you sure that not only was this going to be a passion of yours, it was going to be the thing that got you to college?
Yeah, so I guess I I love just the feeling of just like being in the air, like hitting a dive. So like doing really well in a dive, that's just like so fun. I don't know. I, I guess if you haven't done it, I guess it's hard to really explain. But I guess if you can understand like getting a goal or hitting a home run or just something like that feeling, it's the same feeling and just coming up and being like, yeah, I just did that. Like that is so fun. And also with diving, not many people can do it. So it's kind of a cool feeling and you can kind of go out there and go and cliff dive and kind of show everyone up, which is kind of cool. And the fact that my whole family did it was actually super cool. And with the fact that they all did it, and my parents were actually the opposite of what you would think, very involved in a different way. They would always ask me, like, hey, like, do you want advice? And then if I said no, they would back off. They would not say the advice they wanted to give me. I always said yes because it's like I don't have to take the advice they gave me, but like might as well hear it, you know? Um, but yeah, no, I just genuinely found that connection and then I got pretty good at it, I guess. I guess it's in my genes. But I don't know, I just had a lot of fun and just kept going and yeah, it just ended up being at that level where it was time for college and I was at that level.
I feel like when I talk to athletes who have strong support systems, they're normally just based on love, not actual knowledge of the sport. When you have a support system that not only loves you, but has an innate understanding of what you're trying to do, how much does that help you with your confidence growing up?
Totally. And I feel like not only is it super cool that they understand the sport, I feel like I can go home and just be like, oh, like, and explain what happened at practice, and I don't have to be like, kind of like dumb it down for them. So that was definitely like helpful, especially if I just needed advice or something. But it was also cool because I got to base my goals on them. Now, my grandpa was an Olympian and my dad was a world champion, so like those are kind of like hefty goals. But my mom, she was a really good diver, but like later in life. And so I kind of had that goal of, okay, like I want to be as good as her. And so that kind of just added to it. So yeah.
Can you explain to me the pre-performance routines between springboard and platform? Like how
I
did
feel
those two diving disciplines differ?
okay, so I feel like so I stopped doing tower or platform um 3 years ago because I got four concussions in like a 6 month span. Not even from tower. I just yeah. Yeah. But I ended up doing more springboard and the springboard aspect, you kind of, so the pre-meet or even pre-practice, there's a dry land aspect, which means like doing the board stuff into a pit. And that actually really helps you get more numbers and stuff. So you can do that into a pit, or if you're doing tower, you do it from like, just straight on mats. So it's, not bouncy, I guess. And I guess it's kind of just a different mindset. Like, you're going to be going up higher. So it's also 10 meter, the highest one. It's a lot on your body. So you kind of, I mean, I barely did 10 meter. I was terrified of 10 meter. So I like to do a lot of my dives lower, but it's a lot. And so you do less reps. You do a lot more reps lower. So once you go up, it's kind of like, okay, I'm doing like 2 reps and this is it. Like, this better be good. So I feel like that's the major difference between them. You can do more reps lower, but once you get up there, it's kind of like, all right, it's go time.
Getting back to your family's success in the Pac-12, were you looking at other conferences?
It's funny that we all ended up being the Pac-12 because I was looking at other conferences. I didn't even expect to be at Arizona. It was the least on my list. Like, it was I was looking at 6 schools. It was number 6 before I went on my trip. Um, I thought it was like ASU. No offense, ASU, but I didn't really think much of it. And so I went to Purdue, I went to Tennessee, I went to Michigan, um, all these different places, literally around the country. Kind of just I looked at really good diving schools. Like, I didn't really think about Pac-12, like I mean, especially because now there's Big 12. That really didn't affect my thought process. I mean, the fact that my family lineage, a lot of them went to USC. I did reach out to the coach. We have a lot of family ties to the USC coach, especially because he was a diver under my grandpa when he coached there. But it's just so expensive. There's no way I was just gonna go there. Love the pool, love the team there, but it was just, I was like, oh, the money issue. I was not gonna pay that. But yeah, once I took my trips, I was like, this is a nice place, and I can tan here. So, but yeah.
I was looking through your bio, like I said, and I was seeing just so much success in both conferences. Did you come to Arizona anticipating that kind of success, or did you work up to that?
So it actually didn't start off that way. I ended up freshman year, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, getting at the right before my first Pac-12 conference, I got my first concussion, and then it kind of trickled down to every month I was kind of getting a new concussion. So and then I took a red shirt year, my sophomore year. So I really wasn't having much success in the first 2 years. And that was frustrating. But going in, I had big goals. Like, I was like, I want to, get All-American at NCAAs. I mean, hey, even the goal of winning NCAAs was in my head, but I didn't really anticipate how big the competition was going to be. Um, but you know, I always knew my potential, and my coach, talking to him, he knew my potential. And so after I retired, a week and a half ago, we knew what I was capable of, and we knew I was going to hit it. It was kind of just a matter of, okay, I got to let myself do it.
How much self-discipline does it take to be a good diver?
A lot. I feel like, and not even just good diver, I feel like good athlete. I feel like just being in college, there's a lot of things you can just go and do. And freshman year, I decided to go and do those things, go out. And like, even on the Saturdays, we were allowed to go out on Saturdays. And do whatever we want. We're adults now, adults, you know. But you kind of have to realize, okay, is this affecting my sport? Like alcohol really affected my sport. Um, it made me gain weight, it made me slower in my flipping. Um, it really affected everything, and I didn't really notice until a few months went by. And then I was like, you know what, I need to fully switch this up. And I think you can really see the difference between my freshman year and my senior year. You can, and junior year, I guess. But like, I really made that mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna lock in. And it made me make decisions of sacrifices. Like, okay, like if I'm gonna go out this Saturday, I'm gonna go out sober and I'm just gonna see my friends and I'm gonna go to bed at 11. Like, it's kind of like, okay, I want to go and do these things and be social, but I also really want to do well my sport. And some people, they can do both, and that's awesome. And props to them, but I just wasn't that person. So I just found out that earlier in my life that I just couldn't be that person and kind of made sure I made those disciplines to go through it.
I love watching diving because I think that divers' ability to control their body in the air is incredible. I mean, you guys are like ridiculous. I'm so impressed. Um, but with that, the inherent risks of diving are seemingly inescapable. I mean, and I'm
Yeah,
talking to a perfect example of that. Yes.
yeah. I mean, the biggest injury that was ever kind of recorded that, I guess our parents would know of is Greg Louganis in the Olympics when he hit his head on the board. Um, and that is just such a widely known, like people randomly will be like, "Oh, do you know Greg Louganis? Do you know that name?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like the biggest name in diving." Um, and he hit his head on the board, and that's just like a big thing. And even I've seen teammates hit their head on the board. Like that is just a common, not that common, but it does happen. It's a common injury that, if you end up doing the wrong motion, you're gonna you're gonna hit. Like, um, the I'll explain this in a way of like, I didn't realize this, but the board is literally designed to push you out, like push you out a certain distance. So it's not supposed to like just push you back onto itself, um, which is great. But if you push into it a certain way, you're gonna, go right back onto it. And some people have that issue, I guess. But yeah, concussions. My family and, diving such a small sport, I talk to a lot of past divers a lot, and they tell me why are concussions such a big injury now? It wasn't back in our day. And I was like, I think they're just diagnosing them more now because you guys would have, your symptoms and then go to bed. Like our our trainer, especially my trainer, he's great. And the first time I ever had my concussion, he wasn't even there because I had other trainers downstairs, but he was actually at a concussion like conference or whatever, giving all his knowledge on concussions because he's worked with football and hockey. So that being said, yeah, there's a lot of injuries that could happen and risks that are involved, but I guess that kind of makes it kind of cooler because when you hit a dive, I guess it's kind of like, oh, I didn't hurt myself.
When did you sustain that first concussion?
That was the end of my freshman year. I was doing a dive that I was doing still two, I mean, 2 weeks ago. And I just ended up not getting my hands together and just hitting the water wrong. And I don't know, I guess I just hit my head a certain way. And then just seems like every single time I just randomly hit the water wrong a little bit after I got the first one, it was just like, oh, there's another one. There's another one. I was just like, ugh, dang it.
So you were what, 18 years old with Four
I was 19.
concussions?
Yeah. So I was 19 with 4 concussions. And what I didn't realize with concussions is there's not like a set number that it's like, oh, at 6, you're out of your sport. It's kind of like, okay, depends on the person, how badly it is. Like you can get one and you're done, or you can get 10 and then that's your limit. So mine, I never had like a blackout period where I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't remember what's going on. So that's great. I just had issues, with migraines. I mean, to this day, I have issues with migraines, unfortunately, and then like light sensitivity, stuff like that, where it's like, oh, that sucks, but at least I was able to do school, so that's good. At least I don't know. It affects people differently.
So after four concussions, where do you go from there? How do you reinstate that self-efficacy? Like I can do my sport without injuring myself.
Yeah, I was pretty frustrated at that point. I was in the summer when I got that one, and I was back at home, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I am so done. I'm so frustrated. And my coach at home, just like my mother, I love her. She she basically brought me in and was like, you need to talk to your college coach and your college trainer and ask for a redshirt year because you getting 4 concussions and not allowing yourself to heal is so bad for your health, like in the long run. And I never like really like thought about it in that way because me getting 4, I was like, oh, like 4 concussions. Like I don't know. I just didn't really like take it that seriously. Um, and then that's when I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. Um, and then by then I was also getting pretty bad, like migraine symptoms and just everything was kind of like snowballing. And so when I sat down with my coach, we are kind of setting down a game plan for, okay, what are we going to do? And you're right. Like when I went back into the sport after I took a lot of time off, like I was sitting there, first of all, watching my teammates practice and being like, I can go and practice. Like it's not like I have a broken leg. It's like my brain. But when I finally got in, it was super slow. That was super boring. But it also was frustrating because I was honestly scared that if I messed up once, I was going to be out forever. And that terrified me. But I guess it gave me more confidence within like a 6 month range that, all right, once I gave 6 months and I didn't get a concussion, I was like, I think I'm okay. Like, I think I can take more risks and I'll be okay. And then after that, I kind of just stopped thinking about it.
And the University of Arizona has a pretty well-respected sports psychology staff. Were you working with them at that point?
Yeah, so I actually worked with them for different reasons. I had a lot going on in my life. But I was working with them throughout, I guess, my sophomore year to, I mean, even now I still work with them. And they're great. I mean, they've gone through many changes of staffing, but everyone I've worked with is amazing. And whether we're talking about sports or life, I feel like I'm always getting something out of it. Um, I always encourage my teammates to go into it because they're always like, I mean, maybe, like, I don't have time. I'm like, you have time. Like, I'm working a job and I'm working this. Like, if I have time, like, you have time. You're good. It's 1 hour a week, but I genuinely really think therapy, sports psychology, something like once a week, once every 2 weeks is just so helpful for not only athletes, just people in general.
How have you seen your mentality toward your sport change since working with a third party, like a sports psychologist?
Well, I go through ups and downs in the sport, mainly because I've been on a lot of meds. Um, so because like getting deeper into that, my migraines because possibly because of stress, but possibly because of the concussions, we really don't know. The migraine medication that they put me on, we found out years ago. Um, causes me to be really depressed. And we knew that at the time. So when we put me on that, we also put me on antidepressants. So we're like, all right, we're doing this smart, right? But upping that, the migraine medication when migraines were still getting worse, we didn't dose it correctly. And so I was getting really depressed this year, right before championship season, and my diving was not doing well. And so going into them, I kind of was like, this isn't working. I need help. Like, and working, okay, I work with like so many of them. So I work with sports psych where him and I come up with, plans throughout the week. Like, okay, this is your homework. And I work really well with homework. Like, okay, we're gonna do this, this, this. And then also my athletic trainer, he has done so many like things with psychology and all that. He also really helped me with the psychology part of it, of just like, okay, what are you grateful for? Like, just think about that. And then also take away a lot of these stressors until championship season is over, like the stress of getting a job after and the stress of a breakup, like all these things. Um, and those two together, those two people together really helped me get out of this little funk that, not really funk, this depression that I was in. Because I was just, that was probably the worst time in my life, probably 2.5 months ago. And they really were able to dig deep into, and also the fact that they were able to help me was a fact that I was willing to work on it. Like, there are some people that are like, okay, okay, like, yeah, help me, but I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to do what you're telling me to do. And like, why am I still in this? So I don't know. I was willing to do whatever they told me to do to see what helps. So I don't know. I feel like the support that I'm given at the University of Arizona, I will always give a ton of praise to because they love to help and I have needed that help. So long tangent, but yeah.
It's interesting, like obviously I talk to a lot of athletes who have been through mental health scenarios from minor performance-based topics to serious like clinical diagnoses. I don't normally talk to athletes whose life and death and just overall health physically is so tied to their sport. I was just having this conversation with a BMX rider who literally almost died on a track at the Olympics. Um, and he was like, I love my sport, but the margin for error is so small.
Yeah, that's crazy.
When you're in a sport that gets scary for your safety, if you're not fully focused on it, how do you build back up to feeling okay?
Yeah, so I guess like with a certain dive, let's say I was doing this dive probably 3 weeks ago in championship season, it goes Big 12s or your conference or whatever. And then the next week, you literally go back to zones, which qualifies you for NCAAs. And this is like week to week to week, 3 week period. And at zones, I was doing, the same dives I was still doing. And I was doing, I don't know if you know what a gainer is, a reverse gainer. Okay, so it's the same thing. And I was doing that with a twist, and I stood it up a little bit more than I'm used to. I'm used to pushing it out a little bit. So me standing it up was not close to the board at all. But in my brain, was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna hit the board. Like in the air, I'm like, well, there's nothing I can really do right now. I'm either gonna hit the board or I'm not. So, but with that margin error, I feel like with a good coach and with good basics, you're not, unless it's a freak accident, you're not gonna hurt yourself. But I mean, yeah, there are issues that do happen. Um, but like I don't know how to really explain it. I guess like in a way that diving kind of you know what to do, but things happen. Stress, especially meets, you're stressed. So you're not going to do it the same in practice sometimes. You're tight, your muscles are tighter, and so you might like not be able to bounce as high. You might get a little bit closer to the board. And so being able to understand how to know what to do in those situations is very helpful because a lot of times I didn't, and that's when you get hurt. So,
How long do you have between the time that your feet leave the springboard and your hands enter the water? I mean, you're not a platform diver, you're not on the 10 meter. So specifically when you're doing the 1 meter, the 3 meter,
yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
are we talking, we're talking seconds to make that
yeah, like
happen, right?
let me try and guess. Like, I'm doing one, like 3 to 4 seconds, like if that. Maybe. Maybe I'm just like slowing down time in my head just because I'm used to doing the dive. Maybe even 1 to 2 seconds. I don't even know. Yeah, it's super quick. But I feel like honestly, while watching diving, it seems quicker than actually doing it because it's so thought out, like, okay, arm swing, get in the tuck, kick out. All right, look at your hands or look at the water. But when you're watching it, it's like, oh my gosh, all right, they're in the water. Like, like I feel like it's, I guess time slows down in a way, but I didn't never really realize that except until now. So, yeah.
When you have a sport that is so produced, like I'm doing this and then I'm doing this and then I'm doing this, how much time do you have to switch something up, to fix something in the air? I mean, do you have any time?
Very rarely do you have much time. Um, but that's what I was saying, like kind of like practicing knowing what to do. My coach now, he also told us like don't change your come out, the way you come out, um, based on, how you came off the board, but you can change, maybe like don't don't change your skill on it, but maybe change when you do it, like and maybe I'm quoting him wrong, but that's what I got out of it. Uh, but he always was looking at it of make sure to do the skill correctly, um, for foremost, because a lot of us were like, oh shoot, we messed up this. Now I gotta fix that in the air, and now we messed up the entire dive instead of like, all right, stay true to what we know, and maybe it'll turn out. So I guess yeah, we have milliseconds to kind of figure it out in the air.
Because of that, how important are psychology principles like imagery and visualization to the process of these reps?
Yeah, so everyone's different with what they work with. My parents actually had this thing when they were younger, and it was kind of like a highlight reel, but with music. And so whenever they hear the song, they like, oh my gosh, that's my highlight reel. And we were talking about that with our team, and we kind of put together our best dives. And I was nervous. What was it? Maybe zones this year or NCAA's, I can't remember. And I was just nervous. And I was like, why am I nervous? I've done these dives 1,000 times. And I just went through it over and over. I just watched these dives. It was like, I know how to do these dives. I've done them a million times. And what's actually super weird this year is all of our championship meets, at least for a few of the teams, were at the same pool. And that's not normal for like everyone else was everywhere else in the country. But for us, it was in the same pool. So that was like a huge advantage for us. But I knew those boards. I knew how to do a dive with those same, basically the same judges, like with the same stress, with the same crowd. Like I know that. And just watching the highlight reel and being like, okay, I know how to do that was super helpful in that like moment of stress, I guess.
Since your concussions, have you had any other injuries, or was that 7 month span just like a freak situation?
Yeah. It's basically just that. Randomly during my Pac-12s last year, I I did this thing. I've never done it in a meet, but it's called a balk, which is basically you start your dive and then you stop and then you restart. And a balk means you get 2 points off of every single judge's score. And that's like a lot of points with the amount they multiply by. So you don't want to balk. No one ever balks. Everyone's like, ooh, if you balk, right? I have never balked in a meet except when I was like maybe 9. And I balked because my knee hyperextended on the board. And I was in finals, Pac-12 3 meter, and my entire swim team's watching. And they don't normally get to watch us too because they're swimming. And so I was like, everything went silent. Like people were talking, I bet, but like my entire like my ears, in like a movie, everything kind of goes like fuzzy. It was that. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, okay, calm down. You're fine. Take a deep breath and then go. And then I actually ended up pretty much hitting the dive, which was very rare because people were normally stressed in that moment. Anyway, long story short, the knee ended up hyperextending from that, and I had to really work with my trainer for the next probably few weeks on every single day before and take ibuprofen for that before every single day slash meet practice um, because I couldn't really push the board down in a certain way, which is very important when you're a springboard diver. But yeah, but other than that, those were the only injuries, which I'm very thankful for.
Let's go back and talk about that moment when everything just kind of focused for you. Where were you? Did anything else matter in that moment?
No, yeah, so it was super weird because so people who balk in practice a lot, they end up balking in meets a good amount. And so I don't balk in practice unless it's literally a dangerous hurdle. And, that just, sets you up for a better position in a meet. And so everyone was kind of like, whoa, why did she balk? Like, that's weird for her. And so me literally getting into that position, it honestly didn't really feel like a meet when I was in that. Like, it's funny because this was a year ago, but I still remember the feelings. I remember walking, then like walking back and being like, okay, you're fine. Like, take a deep breath, restart, you got it. And then because it was so quiet in my head, like I kind of like wasn't stressing about like the murmur of like everyone being like, ooh, like, like weirdly enough, I totally thought I would be like, oh my gosh, they're talking about me. Oh my gosh, like they're watching me and stuff like that. And for some reason I wasn't. I was so locked in and I don't think I've ever had an experience where I've been that locked in on a dive ever. So that was kind of cool experience just thinking about it.
How important was it to then go out and nail that dive after kind of proving to yourself that you could do it?
Yeah. So that was actually super cool hitting that dive. Like everyone was like super excited. Funny enough, that was the same pool that I just had all of my championship meets in this past like year. Um, so that was super cool. And then I ended up getting bronze. So it allowed me to get bronze. I would have gotten second if I didn't hyperextend my knee because the amount of points and without everything. But the fact that I was able to get bronze with that and hitting that dive, just I was so excited. Like I have never been able to, bounce back like that. And it was just such a not ego booster, but in a way of like confidence booster, in a way of like, oh my gosh, like was I so scared to do something like this in the past, And with diving, my coach always says like you kind of need a little bit of confidence slash ego while you're diving. Now, the second you're done diving, okay, you need to be a regular person. Don't act like that. But like when you're focused in a dive, you need to have like that confidence. Like I'm gonna hit this dive. Like I know this dive, you know? Um, And I was always shying away from that because I guess I don't really like people like who have a huge ego. So learning that it's okay to have that while doing a dive was a cool experience to learn, I guess.
How has your relationship with diving changed since you got to Arizona?
Yeah, I have had a lot more ups and downs in college than I thought I would. I've always loved the sport, um, throughout college and through juniors. But college athletics is not what everyone expects it to be. Not because um like you're like more practices, all that, but you're not, especially with diving and swimming, they're basically the same thing, but like you're not expecting, okay, 20-hour weeks and then you're going to compete the next day and then you're going to do it all over the next week and then the next week and the next week. Like you're not used to that. I was talking to a freshman this year from a different team and she was like, this is insane. Like I've never felt like, why didn't anyone tell me this? And it's kind of, I had an extra fifth year of eligibility and my coach wanted me to take it and I could have taken it. And the love for my sport almost made me do it. But there's so much more in college athletics and just college in general that just made me not want to be here for another year. The drama, the just like highs and lows, I couldn't deal with that anymore. And I think I got what I needed out of college athletics.
Do you still love diving the way that you did when you were getting recruited to Arizona?
Um, yes, I would say so, but at this same point, I think I kind of reached the end in a way because this whole year I've been really deciding fifth year, not fifth year. And at the end of it, I kind of got to the point where I love to compete. That was my favorite part. A lot of people don't like to actually compete, and I'm like, that's insane. Why are you doing the sport? But to each their own. But I was literally in the most fun competitions. Like finals are where you have fun. Prelims are not the most fun. They're super long events. And you're trying to get into finals, but finals are where you have the most fun. And I'm in these events and I'm like, I really don't want to do the next dive. And I'm like, yeah, I love it. Like after I do the dive and I'm like getting all the cheers and I hit the dive and it's great. But then the second I have to think about the next dive, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do the next one. Um, and like I love the feelings after I do it, but it's just like that buildup of, oh, the next one, the next one. I've never had that before until probably this year. And I was like, that's when I know it's the end because I don't want to do a whole nother year and I'm dreading competing. Um, and I don't think anything really kind of changed that. I think I'm just so excited for the future. And I just kind of got to the end. And I think that's totally okay, but I don't know. I probably could do a whole nother year and be fine, but I just didn't want to risk the fact of me kind of losing that love for the sport.
I find that with the athletes I talk to, the majority of them have left their sport and they're kind of recounting their relationships with their sports. Burnout comes up a ton at the end of their college careers, their professional careers. Do you feel like this is a situation of burnout or you being excited for the next phase?
I think everyone has a feeling of burnout throughout their college career. I think it goes in phases. Swim and dive has probably the longest season out of everyone. We started our season this year in what? Um, November, and we just ended the end of March. So, like, literally the longest season. And throughout, you're just competing and then you're training, and it's just like, it's a lot. Um, so feeling that burnout, especially if you're not doing well or something, is so valid. But I don't really think this is burnout fully. I think I'm yeah, like you said, I'm just ready for the next adventure. Um, I've been here for 4 years. Like I've dealt with what it's like to go through a year of being a student athlete. And I love the perks of being a student athlete. Like it is awesome. And what you get, like not only of like, oh, we get team merch, like and all that, not just that, but just like the experiences you get as a student athlete and the fact that they can really truly help you get so far in life. That is what I love being a student athlete. But I think I have done it so many times, so many years that I'm kind of like, it's kind of mundane in a way for me. I don't want to do it again. And also with diving, like I talked to my coach a lot, and for a while I was like, but I feel like there's not much more I can do in this sport. Like I'm not going to the Olympics. At some point, you know you're not going to the Olympics. Um, and I'm not winning an NCAA title. And he's like, no, but there is. And at this end of this season, I actually do think there was a little bit more I could do. I missed out of top eight All-American at NCAAs by 2 points. And I really could have. But in the end, it's like, okay, what if next year I ended up missing it again? Like, and then I just did a whole year just for me to miss it. So it really, I think it's being a student athlete and everything is amazing, but I ran my course and I'm super excited for what's to come. And I'm moving to London. So like I'm super excited for that. So I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Why are you moving to London? That's so fun.
So I originally was dating a tennis player here, and he was from Sweden. And I, for a while, was expecting to go and move over there. And we took a trip over there, and I just got the bug for Europe and for travel, and I thought that was so cool. We ended up breaking up. All love to him, but I still have like that desire to kind of like explore the world. Like I feel I'm from Orange County, California. We call it like a bubble over there. And then I came to a new bubble of Arizona athletics. And so I feel like there's just so much I don't know about the world and I just want to explore it. And right now I have nothing like tying me to anything. Like I'm no one I'm dating, no one, no job. I mean, I would love to have a job right now, set in place, but I just trying to go get a job out in London and the question of why London, I figured an English speaking place would be perfect for the first time I'm going someplace. I have an old roommate that lives there too, is from there too. And I mean, we'll see kind of what happens, but I'm hoping to get a job before I end up going out there. But if not, I'm gonna go and just kind of walk up and be like, please hire me. I don't know. I have a lot of experience, like, please. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least I say I tried.
Absolutely. So the reason that I found you was because of your podcast. What was the catalyst to starting this podcast? I mean, it's a very niche topic, but I mean, I think that the potential is super cool. So
Yeah,
what were kind of the driving factors behind starting it?
so it's actually so funny. It was a class assignment. So I am a journalist major. Um, journalism major, and I'm in a class where it's multimedia, and the first assignment was making a podcast. And I've always wanted to make a podcast, and I just never had kind of the tools and the actual like, you know, thought process of like, okay, I'm actually going to do it and what I'm actually going to do with it. And we have a whole podcast studio in the journalism building, which is awesome. I mean, I only have a month of it left, but yeah, like high tech stuff, which is incredible. Um, so that's awesome. And then he taught us different ways of how to edit and all that. So that was awesome how to do it. I got feedback before I posted it. And yeah, and so obviously we got to pick um our topic, and I picked someone I knew but wasn't super close to, and it ended up being really helpful that she was able to just get into deep topics. Being a student athlete and being a woman in sports and just the mental health of it. Um, but yeah, just the fact that it was a class assignment, and then I posted it and it did really well, and I was not expecting that. I thought maybe I was like shooting for maybe 25 people to listen, and it got over 200, and I was like, okay, maybe. And a lot of people like you reached out, and I was like, maybe this could go somewhere. So I'm actually recording today with our sideline reporter. I think that's her title, from Arizona, and she was a student athlete before, and so I'm going to record with her today. So I thought that was super cool, and people like you reaching out actually really motivated me to like keep it going, I guess.
Heck yeah. I mean, I obviously am biased toward podcasts and storytelling, but when I saw your podcast and I listened to your episode, I was super excited to talk to you because first of all, there just aren't that many of us talking about mental health and advocating in a podcast sense. Um, so I just think you have a really cool concept, and I'm excited to keep following it.
Thank
If
you.
you continue to do it
Yeah.
post
Yeah,
college, I
I'm
mean,
trying.
what's the plan? Is it just an assignment? Is it something that you plan
No,
on?
I mean, it was originally just an assignment, but now I'm just gonna keep it going, especially because we're allowed to use the podcast studio whenever we want. And I mean, now it's actually credit if I keep it going. But no, I mean, especially since I don't have a set job right now after college, like might as well keep this going. And it's something I'm passionate about. I feel like I'm pretty good at it. And I'm also very open to talking about topics that a lot of people might not be. Um, and I don't know, I think that these topics are things that need to be talked about, especially with people not knowing and going into college. Like people who are, yeah, people can listen if they're not in athletics. And like, I think that's a great eye opener to, what college athletics is. But I think it's a huge get for girls going into college athletics and being like, wow, like I'm not alone in a lot of these feelings. Because a lot of these body issues, a lot of these mental health issues we go through and we think, ugh, like I'm just going through it all alone. And you're not. A lot of us feel the same way. And I talk to people all the time about it. And I'm like, why not make a podcast about it so people understand that they're not alone? So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of the key concept of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are so many student athletes in the NCAA right now who feel like they're alone for the same concepts that you're talking about, that I'm talking about, that other podcasters and journalists are talking about. And I think that if there's a way that we can get these stories out, like we should.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
especially like with you as a student athlete, I mean, that adds credibility to the stories that you're telling as well.
Yeah. And especially because I know a lot of these people and I know their stories, I think it's just the perfect way to get it out. Like we talk about these stories all the time. Why not let it be heard in a way? And I know so many people that are okay with it being heard. So why not make a platform for it? So, yeah.
I mean, your episode is going to be episode 118 of my podcast.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Congrats. That's a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you. So this episode will come out on May 28th. But
Cool.
all that to say, I didn't start this podcast anticipating the amount of vulnerability that athletes of all ages, of all backgrounds would be willing to share. And I think that that is a really cool part of a concept that is that requires such vulnerability from the people that it's interviewing. I mean, I've cried with athletes. I have laughed. They've told jokes. Like it's been the most incredible experience. But
Right.
all of that requires athletes who are willing to tell their story. And I find that there has been a recent uptick in athletes who are taking it upon themselves to tell their stories. And if we can aggregate those anecdotes in any way, I think that we're doing a good job, a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that you're able to just find these people and the fact that you found me just on LinkedIn and just stuff like that is super cool. And you talking about the BMX and just like finding just different sports, that was something super, super important to me. Like for me, like f getting the word out for women, because like men get to talk about their stories all the time. And I feel like, there are some men that, don't get to, but um mainly it's, sports, you think of men's sports. And so me doing women's sports, I think that's a niche area that a lot of women don't get to, and you doing a lot of different sports, BMX, diving doesn't get to talk about a lot. Like, I think that's super cool that you reach out to a lot of different sports, not just the giant sports. So thank you.
And thank you. Like I'm really excited to follow along with you and see what you're up to post-graduation. London sounds sick. Like, well,
Thanks. I know. I'm really hoping it goes well because everyone's like anticipating it to be like the coolest thing ever, but watch it just like not be, but we'll
me
see.
too, girl. Like I'm excited for you too. Is there anything else that you think that I didn't cover about your story that you want included? I am done with my questions. Now is normally the part of the interview where I say the floor is yours. If there is anything that you want to talk about that you don't think that we did, any gaps you want to fill. Um,
Hmm. I'm trying to think. This year, okay, I guess I can mention that. So I talked about how this year was super important for me because championship was at the same pool every single, I mean, week to week to week. And normally, I mean, I did really well this year, but normally they're at different pools, and I normally have the first event not do well. And I have that, and I only have two events, so that's like quite unfortunate. And I just have that mindset that, oh, the first event's just not gonna be great. And a lot of times I don't really think about it until the end, but my coach thinks I think about it a lot. And Big 12 is the first competition we had, and my first event was not the greatest, but it was like a not really important event because it was kind of a team event. We've never had a team event, all this stuff. And then I started really excelling. And then we came back to the pool and it kind of just felt like the same meet. So I didn't have that same issue of having the first event being bad. And at the end of my events at NCAA's, I had coaches coming up to me and they're like, I have watched you compete your entire life and I have never seen you compete this well. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like, that's super nice of you. But in my head, I'm like, it's literally because it's the same pool, but thanks. Um, but I think me ending on a high note was huge for me ending the sport because I don't know what I would have done if I left the sport with like more to give. But also, so I work in Arizona athletics as well, marketing, and I found my passion with that. I'm so glad I did. And I came back and went right into work and I love it. And they're like friends to me, basically, all my bosses. Um, and just finding that next thing was so important as a student athlete because I feel like we're so interested in being busy. Like it's not very normal for us to be like just like lazy all the time, I guess. So anyways, I guess my long tangent goes into like I feel like student athletes, and I talked to my Olympian that I had on my team, like we need to figure out kind of what's next before we end because a lot of people end up feeling lost in the end because they didn't plan it out correctly. And so that's why I feel like talking to student athletes and getting them to go to career fairs and really thinking about their future because their sport is going to end no matter what. is so critically important because to making sure you don't feel lost in the end. Because um, I think if I didn't have marketing and I didn't find that love for it, I would have easily taken that fifth year because I would have been like, I don't know what to do, like whatever. Um, but with that, I think I was able to pick my next journey and I'm content with my next phase. But yeah, I guess that's my end of my spiel, but thank you.
Yeah, I feel like this podcast is kind of like death, taxes, and athlete identity. Like things that just get brought up as givens every episode. It doesn't matter what their background is, it doesn't matter what country they're from. There is
Right.
always that conversation of what do I do after I'm done competing? Whether that's growing out of your sport, like graduating from college, or a career-ending injury, like whether it's your choice or not, there seems to always be that phase of what next, what
Right.
now, who am I? And so I think that it's really admirable that you are actively seeking that next step out. I think that that is going to pay off really well for you down the line, because there will be a lot of athletes just like you who are going to struggle, and that sucks.
Yeah,
Um, so just the fact that you're getting ahead of that is a really good thing.
for sure. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to putting this episode together. Like I was saying, the end of May. So you have a bit of time. If there's anything that happens between now and then that you'd like included in the episode, send me a DM on LinkedIn and I will include it. I hope you loved the episode. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.